Greetings, my friends. Welcome to the Mint Mob. This is Jason coming out of Arizona, and I've got my buddy Alex across the pond in Germany. We're going to dive into the markets and what's happening with not only the token world, but specifically NFTs today, our project. We're going to talk a little bit about where everything is going, or at least where we think everything is going to go, and break down some of those ideas in terms of uses for real-world applications and marketing. So we're going to dive into all that. Alex, how's it going, buddy? How you feeling?
Hey man, I'm feeling good. Although I'm right now looking at an image on X, basically a statistic of NFT sales volume nearing all-time lows. Which is crazy. Market sentiment is pretty much down right now. People are. I'm not sure if they're scared of. I think some people already like gave up on crypto and NFTs, and only the strong ones survive, right?
That's the way it works, my friend. All of the garbage goes away. I mean, the good thing about the NFT market or crypto in general is that it's pretty much a capitalist market. It's probably one of the only markets in the world that has a true capitalist bent. There's no capitalist economy anywhere in the world. All economies are managed on some level. And so, what capitalism does is it transfers money from the incompetent into the competent. And so what we're going to see is as more and more incompetent founders and projects fall by the wayside, they'll get picked up by the competent. And same thing with collectors and collectibles. The more people who have to sell or are forced to sell because they feel like they need to raise money, all of those funds will find their way into the hands of true collectors. Again, the incompetent will transfer assets to the competent, and that's the way it's supposed to work. So I think we're seeing some consolidation, but definitely we're seeing some negative sentiment because markets were down. NFT volume, as you said, is trending down. And a lot of that is just coming from, I think, the fact that the old ways of hype and horseshit are finally stopping, or at least stopping their efficacy, or, they're not able to work anymore. So that's kind of what I see happening with that, my friend.
Yeah, definitely. But let's draw a little picture here. Like imagine, the cycles and all the stuff that it's like keeps repeating. And imagine like 1 year from now, Bitcoin 50K, like nothing played out as it should have done. What would you do?
A year from now, Bitcoin at 50K, probably wouldn't do much of anything. I'd probably still be acquiring. I don't see a world where, a company like BlackRock can acquire nearly 300,000 Bitcoin and Bitcoin continue to fall. I don't see that as a possibility. I don't see it as anything other than an inevitability at this point. So Bitcoin at 55 to me would just be a sale price, and I would still be buying.
But would you still believe like in the technology if, like for example, let's say Trump becomes president, and unlike what he promises now, like he's not being like pro crypto. Instead, he drops a lot of regulations, and you read news about like BlackRock selling Bitcoin again and everything. Like even if the news were so bad, would you still believe in the tech and then feel like investing would probably have a good return in the future?
Yeah, the only thing that would change my investing thesis is some form of story and or factual situation that would eliminate the prospects of it expanding. And I don't see that happening no matter who's elected. I don't see that happening, no matter what government is in power. Because, I mean, the truth is when you're looking at governments follow trends, they don't set them. And this has to be the case because, elections nowadays are popularity contests. People are not elected based on their philosophies or their understanding of legalities or their understanding of societies or anything remotely related to human psychology or philosophy, which is what, politics was originally based on. So when I look at the founding fathers of this country and I see their philosophical bent, and then I look at modern politicians, all I see is a group of babies who've squandered every opportunity that was given to them. And I don't think these people are worthy of a follow. I don't think they should be followed. I don't think they should be listened to. And right now, from an election standpoint, people are just talking their religion. If you're a Democrat, you're talking your Democrat religion. If you're a Republican, you're talking your Republican religion. And at the end of the day, the only thing that matters to me is the philosophy. So I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, is what you're advocating good. That's it. That's all I care about. So if Biden came out tomorrow and was able to complete a sentence, which is highly unlikely, and he started talking about, becoming the Bitcoin president, like what Trump is talking about, that would be a good thing because it adds more freedom and decentralization to control of the populace. I mean, this was the whole point behind crypto in the first place, was to basically take some of the control of your life back from government. Because when governments can print money, when they can counterfeit their own currency supply, the average person is stolen from on a daily basis. So, I mean, the only thing that would change my outlook on crypto is for any reason, story, fact, indication, it would have to be that crypto is somehow not viable. And I have seen no indication that crypto is ever going to be not viable. And so if I wake up tomorrow and I see Bitcoin at 50, I'm buying Bitcoin. I'm just going to. Now, if for some reason, something happens to eliminate the viability of crypto or Bitcoin, then that's when I stop buying and that's when I start looking for exits.
Okay, and if you look at it from a tech point of view, like from today's point of view, Bitcoin is safe. It's like safe and secure. You can have your funds as long as you do not connect to some suspicious websites and everything. Your funds are safe. But imagine like in 10 years from now, some tech dudes find a way to it's all theory now. I know it's kind of stupid, but imagine they find a way to hack into the blockchain and get funds, and you see like, hey, the code is not as safe as we always thought.
Mm-hmm.
What would you do?
It's a different story. That changes everything, right? So if security becomes an issue and your funds are not safe, well, the question becomes, is there some sort of counter technology that can secure it? And if the answer is no, then you have to take steps to protect yourself. And, you certainly wouldn't want to buy and hold in the same wallet. You might start doing some wallet dancing. But, even if the technology is hackable on some level, I think unless and until there's a high probability that you personally will be hacked and your funds lost, as long as the story continues to grow, you got to hold, you got to see what happens, and all while finding a way to secure those funds. And I think there's some indication that quantum computers could hack the Bitcoin algorithm, and that might be the case, or at least hack into wallets. But we're a long ways from that. So I'm curious to see if, Bitcoin development keeps pace with security. I'm sure that the developers will find some sort of way to secure it even further, but we'll see.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like if there was a chance that your funds could be like stolen, even though you followed all the rules, that would definitely cause some kind of panic in the markets. Even though if you're not like affected, but I feel like just knowing that there is a possibility of your funds being stolen without you having like done any kind of mistakes. That would definitely be a problem. But I read about that as well, the quantum computers you mentioned, that people are seeing if there is any way to harm the blockchain. But I don't know. I feel like, the one thing that is always going to be valid is if Bitcoin fails, every cryptocurrency is going to fail, right?
Maybe. I mean, it's certainly a possibility. I mean, right now the market follows Bitcoin. There's no disputing that. I mean, if BlackRock is holding, 300,000 Bitcoin in their iShares trust or whatever the name of their particular ETF is, and, MicroStrategy's holding 220,000, and who knows how much the U.S. government has, and, El Salvador and the rest of the big holders around the world, who knows? I mean, these people are not going to allow these funds to be at risk. So I think, ultimately, if you're a large holder or you're holding the majority of your wealth in Bitcoin, you're going to have some sort of cold storage. It's going to be on some sort of device that doesn't, connect to the internet at all. And so at that point, I mean, really the only thing that can be done is, can someone guess your private keys? And I guess if there's a quantum computer out there that's smart enough to guess your private keys and open up a wallet, then you're fucked no matter what. But until that technology comes online, I'm not going to worry too much about it.
Yeah, definitely. Couldn't agree more on that. I feel like I always wonder why when you like install some kind of wallet or some kind of Chrome extension, why there is no captcha. So because like especially like all these brute force methods should be like prevented by that.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not even sure if there are some kind of like captchas because I haven't like failed too many times entering my key. But yeah, we'll see about that. But let's maybe jump into the NFT market. I've seen that Bitcoin surpassed ETH in terms of volume. What do you think is the reason why Solana never made it to the top?
To the top of which chart?
Like on the chart of like the why did it never have like the biggest transaction volume and like especially like market cap? Um, Even though like Solana has always been like the one with the lowest fees, with the fastest transactions and everything.
You mean in terms of NFTs or in terms of the token itself?
Yeah, in terms of NFTs.
Oh, I think it's pretty obvious. I mean, like Ethereum was basically the godfather chain for NFTs when you think about it. All the big names, all the big projects basically originated there, whether it was Bored Apes or CryptoPunks or whatever. So there was a reputation there for Ethereum being the quintessential chain, and they had the sort of first mover advantage there. And then Solana came along after that. So Solana initially is an also ran. It's just another technology doing the same thing. And so over time, what happens is Solana tries to compete with Ethereum in terms of transaction costs and speed, and they do a great job. And lots of NFT projects launch on Solana, but the problem with that is the quality of the buyer is not the same, right? So if I'm on Ethereum and I'm buying Bored Apes, or I'm buying some other Ethereum based project, my view of that project is more along the lines of a business person looking at an opportunity, whereas on Solana, the nail in the proverbial coffin has always been Solana's free shit brigade. So if Solana is the chain for the free shit brigade, then you're not going to have the same quality of project. You're not going to have the same quality of buyer, same quality of collector, same quality of holder. And that's that's one of the reasons that you're not going to have the same transaction volume, because at the end of the day, the price per transaction is always going to be lower. And so I think that's the biggest driver. And, right now, like we're on Solana and we're doing our best to change that. I think a lot of Solana projects sort of consolidating or changing that, like you've got OK Bears, which is changing that. You've got Whales, which are changing that. There's a few others, but for the most part, you're seeing the cream rise to the top, just like always happens during these consolidation periods, and you're seeing the junk fall away. And now that the easy money isn't necessarily in NFTs anymore, people have to think long and hard about where they want to spend their time, and that's a good thing, because now it's going to come down to who can put together an actual plan, who can run an organization, who can market, who can put forth quality artwork. Now it's going to trend toward quality rather than quantity. And when you have quality in play, you have higher prices, you have higher transaction volume due to higher prices. So at the end of the day, I think those are the factors that really need to shift in order for Solana to start overtaking Ethereum in terms of like being the granddaddy of NFT chains, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. But what I wanted to add maybe is I felt like, especially in the beginning, it's probably the same these days, but there was always like some kind of prestige owning like Ethereum NFTs, and Solana was always like for the poor boys back then, with low fees and everything. But what's interesting is, and I'm not sure if it's just because like I'm in some kind of bubble on my X, and where the algorithm is putting me, but I feel like especially if you have all the trash talk and all these like engagement forums on X. I feel like most of the times it's like I see DE Gods NFTs and I see Mad Lads. You see all these guys like playing these shitty games that like people are so tired of. Like, hey, drop a wallet and you'll get something, or complaining about anything. And I barely see like Bored Apes, for example, or yes, sometimes I see CryptoPunks. But usually I feel like these guys who actually spend so much money on these NFTs, they have different problems than, like jumping on X and talking shit.
100%. Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. I mean it's a status play, it's a wealth play. I mean at the end of the day, you've got guys who got into Bitcoin earlier, got into ETH earlier. I mean I think my earliest buy for ETH was like I want to say like $18 a token, back in the day. And I didn't
NFT wise, mine's NFT wise, or
no token wise.
like token wise. Okay.
Yeah, so like if like if you're buying a Bored Ape and Ethereum is 3,000 a token or 4,000 a token, and Bored Apes are trading for I don't know 10 or 15 ETH. I mean you're putting nearly $100,000, like $75,000 you're putting on the line, right? But you might have bought those tokens for $20 a piece or $30 a piece, so it's not that big of a deal to you personally. So like you can pull your money in and out, and you're playing a different game than the people who started in 2020 or 2021, when Solana launched, and the tokens were inexpensive, and starting a project was inexpensive. That's a different buyer altogether. These people are like, you can think of Ethereum as being like the Nike, of the market, because they were the first mover. If you think about how like the Nike shoe developed with Air Jordan, right? Like they put a bunch of shit on the line to develop a name for themselves, and they did it before anyone else, right? So like when Jordans came out, Jordan was fined like $5,000 per game for wearing the Nike shoe because the shoe wasn't white, didn't have enough white on it, right? And so there was this rule where you had to have a certain color on the sneaker. Well, Nike was willing to pay that $5,000 fine long enough for them to change the rule and build a name for itself. So they paid the price, and they were the first one to do that. And because they did that, a lot of people who saw that respected them for standing up for that particular brand and that particular shoe. It's the same kind of thing with Bored Apes and Ethereum, right? They were one of the first projects. They had some big players behind them. They had this big idea behind them. They had great animators, great storytellers. And all these things require time, energy, effort, and money. And they were willing to make the investment. Where if you flip that over to the Solana side, when Solana NFTs dropped, I mean, you basically had to have $5. If you had $5, you could launch a project. Hey, I have $5 and I know an artist who can, do 3 or 4 layers for me. Now I've got an NFT project. That's not the same thing. $5 wouldn't even pay your gas fee for one transaction on ETH. You're going to spend $30-$40 for one transaction. So this is a totally different buyer. And it's like, it's like the knockoff shoe, right? Like nobody wants the knockoff shoe, or the people who do want the knockoff shoe are the people who can't afford the one that, has the brand name on it. So that's where Solana started. Now it's come a long way since then. The technology has shown out. The technology has been, rapidly developed. There's a lot of great projects on Solana. The population is changing. It's turning over. But these things take time. And as more and more quality projects use Solana, as more and more business use cases develop their technology on Solana, you're going to see that gap close, and I think that's what we've seen. Solana is still sitting at like a 67. Let me look right now. $68 billion market cap. ETH is sitting on 428 billion. I mean, so there's a tremendous gap between market caps in Ethereum and Solana, and that gap's never going to close quickly. But the use cases for each technology is changing rapidly, and that's why you've seen Solana advance the way you have. So if I can do the same thing on Ethereum or that I can on Solana, and I'm a business, do I really care about prestige? Do I really care about the NFTs? Do I really care about who was there first? No, I care about the user interface. I care about the experience. I care about the costs and the fees. And so I might be more apt to look at Solana. And, there's been a lot of development that has brought attention to Solana because of that, whether it's the tokens or whether it's the speed of transactions or whether it's the cost of transactions. These are all great things if you're in the business world and you're creating. And if you're in the business world and creating and you're building on Ethereum and you look at the fee structure or you look at the cost to develop or you look at the way the accounts are set up and you compare the two, like it's a no-brainer. I would rather use Solana than use Ethereum. It's a much easier technology, much less expensive technology, much less transaction costs, even though Ethereum has switched to proof of stake. So I think the gap continues to close. Unless Ethereum does something drastically to change its technology, the gap continues to close, Solana continues to gain. But, again, first mover advantage is everything. That's why Bitcoin is 4 times the market cap of Ethereum. And Ethereum is what is that? Like almost 7 times the market cap of Solana. Why? First mover advantage. You can't overcome first mover advantage if you do things well. And that's kind of where we're at.
So the question would be, so if both of them released NFTs at the same time, you'd say Solana would be like on the upper hand, having the upper hand, regardless of the market caps of these tokens?
I think if you give all things equal, if they launched at the same time and they had similar capabilities and possibilities, Ethereum with its fee structure would not have been able to compete with Solana in its fee structure.
Do you remember when you bought your first NFT?
I do, yeah.
What was it? When was it?
My first NFTs were Soul Rocker. Well, no, they weren't my first NFTs. I was buying a bunch of different NFTs, but it was 2021, I believe, toward the end of 2021 when I got involved. And, I came into the market as a collector, so I was just going around to different inexpensive projects, buying all the laserized pieces, because I feel like that's going to be one of the things people want when they look back 30 years from now. So whether the project succeeds or fails, there are certain traits from every collectibles market that are passed forward, whether it's an early baseball card or an early car or an early comic, early piece of artwork. That sort of laserized trait was one of the most memified traits, and it came to symbolize focus and it came to symbolize Bitcoin. So I think it's one of the things people are going to look back on. So I was just going around to random projects, and if they were inexpensive and then they had laser eyes, I would just buy those laserized pieces and put them in my wallet. So that was my first experience buying NFTs. I didn't give 2 shits about the projects. I didn't do any research on the projects. I didn't look at the founders. Because to me, anonymity is anonymity, and I didn't see the point. But the collectability I saw. So that's what drew me in.
So when did they start? What are we talking about? 2019 or?
For me personally?
Yeah, or later.
For me, it was, like I said, it was 2021-ish, toward the end of 2021.
Oh, sorry, I missed that part. Okay, so it's crazy because, what I always wonder if there are people out there, because I feel like I want to capture a glimpse of what it felt like being part of the beginning. I feel like I never find people who actually have been in the space from the beginning, and I'd like to know. The first NFT was minted. I actually Googled that, to be honest, was minted in 2014. Of course, that was not when it went mainstream. It gained the mainstream momentum in 2017, around the time when CryptoPunks appeared. And I'd love to talk to someone who witnessed that firsthand, and ask him why did you think that might become a big thing back then?
Mm-hmm.
This would definitely be something that I'd be interested in talking about.
Yeah, for sure. I agree. I mean, it's funny, right? We're in a point in time where things can happen really fast. And so first NFT minted in May of 2014, and popularity crept up 3 years later, like you said, with the CryptoPunks. and then it evolved from there. And so it continues to evolve. But with technology being what it is, it's so cool to see these markets emerge. And you actually have been here for the first of many things, right? So, like, you've been here for the first Bitcoin ordinals, right? Just like me. You've been here for the first
True, yeah.
runes, right? You're going to be here for the first massive consolidation. Like what we're seeing right now in the NFT market is all the trash is being consolidated. People are falling by the wayside. You know, the typical ways of promoting your bullshit, Discord falsehoods and false promises and bullshit and lies, these things are stopping working. And so people are putting their energy into other things. Like you see a lot of energy go into meme coins because people see a quick buck. And, so like you're going to be here for the first consolidation. I'm going to be here for the first big consolidation. I think you've been here for a lot of firsts in terms of new ways of doing things, like in our project as well. Some of the things that we've done have been completely against the traditional norms. So, I mean, there's different levels, of course. The very first of something is kind of hard to measure sometimes. But being here for the very first ordinals, that was huge. I minted some of the early ones. I think I just minted like some of my logos and stuff like from back in the day just to play with the technology. And I had some that are sub 500,000, or like 150,000, maybe. I think one of my earliest ones. Some of our earliest ordinals, all of these things are big deals. And coming back to like what makes something collectible, the first obviously is part of it. Being early is part of it. And I think just like in all collectibles markets, when you look back, especially with like the numbered ordinals, the early ones are going to be the ones that are most valuable and the most sought after ones. And of course, the projects that sustain and last and can keep a story going along with the early pieces, those are going to be the projects that people want the most. So, yeah, I think you've been here for a few firsts, my friend.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's still interesting because right now I'm reading through the article here, and it's kind of like I'm telling the history of NFTs. And when we had the 2021 boom back then, and you had like companies like Coca-Cola, Taco Bell, Hot Wheels, and Adidas begin selling their NFTs and even connected them to their physical products. It's like crazy to even think about it, especially when you try to get an idea of what the future might bring, and if you have NFTs also in cycles, and there will be like another bull cycle for NFTs as well. And you see a lot more companies coming in, and you mentioned it. I think a couple of weeks ago with the toy that you found that is somehow collected to a digital collectible, right?
Yep. Yeah, for sure. The Todd McFarlane, who's a comic artist. I guess he's an artist, but he's done a lot of artwork for comics. He created, I think, the Spawn character, and he's connected to the DC universe. His studio does all of the figures for DC, the Batmans, the Wonder Womans, the whole DC universe. And so he's begun to expand into Web3. He's dropped a couple comic covers on a few marketplaces, but they've built a little Web3 application where when you purchase a figure, you can basically get a digital collectible that goes with it, and you just log into their little Web3 website, and it's on Polygon, and it just tracks the ownership of the different pieces. So it's kind of interesting that that you see something that someone or something associated with a larger brand, you start to see them to figure out ways to tokenize real world assets, which is really, I think, one of the best use cases for NFTs.
Yeah, definitely. But man, it's so interesting to read through this here. Did you know that Gucci actually accepted ApeCoin as a payment for their brand?
I
It's
did
crazy
not.
because like the Bored Apes were actually like a collection of celebrities somehow, like of a collection of people who wanted to show that they actually own a lot of money, and it's actually it's such a logical step from Gucci to accept and to jump on the train and accept ApeCoin. I see that even like Prada and who else? Prada, yeah. So many luxury fashion brands were making like its way into the NFT space. And back then, like, there was so much noise coming from the space that there is a lot of stuff that you haven't even read about yet. But it's crazy to see how big the market was and where it can go in the near future.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the what you say is exactly spot on. It's kind of like the Nike story. Like people want to associate with other people based on status. That's really what this whole thing is about. And X specifically, Twitter specifically, whatever you want to call it, it's a massive status game, right? Like, did you buy your little blue check, or did you earn it, or do you have the gold check, or how many followers do you have? Like all this stuff, it's all status related. And so, someone with higher status can associate with someone with lower status, and some of that status rubs off. So if you're a small unknown developer, but you've got a very popular NFT project, and you're able to associate with a high-end brand because you sold a couple to celebrities, then yeah, there's going to be mutual benefit there. There's going to be something that you can do brand-wise with someone with higher status, and sharing what that brings. And so it's just a smart move for them. And I mean, even right now with the market down, like I think Bored Apes are trading for like 10 or 11 ETH, which is what is that, $30,000-$40,000 something. I don't even know what ETH is trading at today. So I mean, you can't be poor and own Bored Apes, right? Like that's just not the way it works. So if you're associated with a high-end brand and they're selling $4,000 handbags or $10,000 shoes or whatever the thing is, it just makes sense that you separate yourself from the pack by going after high status brands, because you want to continue to maintain the audience that you have, right? Like you would never see it's funny, right? Like you'd never see a low status brand associated with a high status brand unless there's mutual benefit, because you don't want those buyers. Like if I'm Gucci or whatever, I don't want fucking Solana free ship brigade buyers, because they're not going to buy anything from me, and they're not the people I want to target. It would be the dumbest shit ever, right? So like it makes sense that if you're Jimmy Fallon or Eminem and you own a Bored Ape along with Snoop Dogg or whoever, that you would associate with a high-end brand, someone who can afford your stuff and someone who can bring more money into your organization, right? It just makes sense.
Have you followed the Bored Apes from the very beginning, actually? Because I wonder what kind of marketing they did to, or was it just some kind of lucky shot that there was like one celebrity buying it, and like then it spread all over the markets and all over like the other celebrities, or how did they do it? Like, is there a history playbook here?
I don't know the origins of their brand, to be honest with you. I've never really looked it up. I didn't even hear of them until they made headlines when celebrities were buying. I think on some level, the celebrity buying is what did boost them, And so there's something to be said for creating, a beautiful piece of art or something that someone has a connection to, because you never know who's going to pick it up, right? Like it's one of the beautiful things. Like if someone bought, like I think one of the first buyers of the Bored Apes was Justin Bieber, for example, right? And he's got millions of fans, and then you've got Eminem and Snoop Dogg, and they did some sort of, if I remember right, there's a video where they've sort of employed their Bored Ape characters in the video, right? And then word came out that Jimmy Fallon owned one, right? So it's just sort of spread from person to person to person. But this is when the market was at its peak, and if you were late to Ethereum, you couldn't afford to buy one, right? So you had to have some cash sitting on the sideline to buy the ETH that could then buy the Bored Apes. And I think it just sort of, fed on itself, right? But then there was this idea that they were going to build a universe, and they had this beautiful animated video that told the story of like the origins of the Bored Apes, and it sort of evolved from there, and I feel like at the end of the day, they didn't really do anything all that special other than attract some quality buyers. And then those quality buyers ended up attracting everyone, basically, because they had such massive followings, which tells you the power of list building, right? So if you have a list of potential buyers, and you're able to influence that list in some way, then you're never going to hurt for money, because you can always sell something of value to a high quality buyer who's interested in your stuff, right?
Yeah, definitely. But I feel like, especially, or even on Solana back then, when I remember how all these projects, these shitty projects who are worth the $0 nowadays, they all minted out. Like, I mean, in 2021, you could drop anything you wanted, and people were just like, if you had like more than 10K Twitter followers, people went crazy for it, and like smashed the mint button and just wanted to get it. And you could mint like for, I don't know, 2 or 3 Solana. Solana was like around $200, and you could mint out a collection of like 5,000 pieces easily. And with that huge amount of money people made, I think it was quite easy to even like hire some celebrities with a big followership, and make them promote your project. I mean, I think some of them are not even that expensive. I mean, I don't think Hulk Hogan is expensive. Like, if you could give him like 20K, and he'd probably like tweet something. I'm not sure if he's still rich.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he's doing well. I don't know his situation, but yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, when it comes to things like Bored Apes, like, you have to remember, I think the history that I gave you is pretty accurate. Like, if I remember correctly, the Bored Apes, when they did their launch, they had this little story around, it's like 10 years into the future or 20 years into the future or whatever it is, and everyone who was early to crypto is now rich. And because they're rich, they're now bored. you know, it's kind of like that, and it's kind of an interesting story, right? And then when they did their mint basically didn't do anything. They on mint day, they didn't come anywhere close to minting their pieces. It wasn't until they had a couple celebrity buyers pick up the pieces that the rest of their collection became in demand and sold out, right? And so, at the end of the day, I think this just points to the fact that there is an element of luck in what you're doing, right? But there's also an element of planning and strategy in what you're doing. And so the only thing that they really did right is they played their cards right once they knew that they had a couple celebrity buyers. And of course, now that the market has cycled and then they've come back down, they're not trading for 70 or 80 ETH anymore. They're trading for 10 or 11. So, I mean, I think what we're going to see ultimately in the NFT market is it's going to become tokenization for real world assets. It's going to become IP rights and tracking, which is what we're all about. And there's going to be a massive consolidation amongst shitty projects going away. One of the worst things I see in the crypto market is just like the stoners, the stoners and the free shit brigade, right? Like, every other NFT project on Solana is for stoners. It's pot this, marijuana that, and then the other thing is the free shit brigade. Give me something for nothing. And both of those things are unsustainable because there's too many pot brands already, and Free Ship Brigade doesn't support its creators. So both of those things can't exist because there's not enough demand for pot NFTs, and there's not enough money from the Free Ship Brigade. So what do? Well, you have to find a way to tell a good story, of course. You have to find a way to create quality, of course. But you also have to find a way to create real, value for your holders, whether it's IP rights or whether it's tokenizing real world assets. Because really, I mean, IP rights is just tokenizing a piece of art. That's all it is. But how can you translate that into tokenizing something in the real world is the next question. And that's the next opportunity in the market that I see personally.
Yeah, I do agree on what you said about like the whole free world shit. I mean, um, people still expect NFT buyers, when you drop a collection and make it a free mint. By making it a free mint, they expect to have a pretty high demand because there are a lot of people out there who want free shit. And when you mint out, they actually hope for some volume on secondary marketplaces and getting some money. That's basically what Art of Mob did, by the way. But these days, it's not working anymore, and this is good. It's a good evolvement, and I see that people do not care about they care about like getting free shit and making money of it, but they do sometimes get free shit, but making money is getting like nearly impossible. We've seen that plenty of times, and that's a good thing, definitely. But you mentioned tokenizing and the P rights, and I think that leads us pretty good to our own project right now. And that's why we should talk a little bit about the Goodfellas NFT future. We have talked about it in our prior call here, and we can maybe get people a little idea of what we are about to do in the near future. Maybe you can talk a little bit about the plan of creating a landing page for people and why we do it and everything.
Yeah, I mean, this is basically a marketing discussion, right? So when we are looking at the landscape of the market and we see, what's happening, when we launched this project a little over a year ago, the reality is that the old ways of launching NFT projects, especially on Solana, had already stopped working then. It hasn't worked for probably close to 2 years now. And the fact that people are still launching shit into the Solana ecosystem, doing the typical, I'll give you some free shit if you retweet this, or, I'll give you a Discord role if you jump on Twitter and mention this and mention that and tag 2 friends and retweet that. It's like they're giving you a job. It's like if you want it to mint, you have to do this work for me. And, that's fine when you're 12 years old or 14 years old or 15 years old and you don't understand that what you're doing is you're basically working for someone for free. And, but at the end of the day, as the market starts to mature and you see, buyers start to grow up, like we're 5 years beyond Solana's creation now. Okay, so even if you were 14 years old when you came in, now you're almost 20, or you're coming up on 20, and you're starting to realize how the real world works and how, people have to earn money to make a living and people have to pay bills, et cetera, so on and so forth. So the fact that you aped into a particular project because your buddy Justin Bieber did, or Jimmy Fallon did, or fucking Snoop Dogg did, doesn't really matter. And what matters is the project that you're buying into sustainable? And the answer to that question 99% of the time is no, it isn't. And so what we've done is we've basically looked at the marketplace and said, what's the highest and best use for blockchain? And to my mind, the highest and best use for blockchain is trademark, it is IP rights, it is royalty tracking. And these are all things that in the US, for example, are done in the typical patent and trademark office, the US Library of Congress, et cetera, excuse me. And so what crypto has done basically for that entire scenario of having to register your IP with the Library of Congress or pay $400 or $500 to get a trademark, it's basically eliminated it. So this entire market ultimately will shift to crypto, and you want to be in front of that, and you want to own the pieces that you buy if you have any intentions in the future of doing great things with your pieces. So basically, Goodfellas is about making sure that you own your IP first and foremost, putting high quality art in the hands of high quality holders, people who aren't looking to flip for a hamburger, for example. We want collectors, we want entrepreneurs, we want people who care about the IP rights, who are actually here in the market for long-term value creation. And that's what we're doing. And in addition to that, aside from the primary collections that we have, every single piece that we bring in, every single collection that we acquire is all about making sure that those IP rights are guaranteed to the holders forever. And so when you look at that and you look at what's possible with character creation, with animation, with storytelling, it gives a creator, it gives an imaginative person a lot of options in terms of creating brands, logos, businesses, and really owning the assets that they're putting forth without having to worry about the provenance. So that's huge in and of itself. But then in addition to that, like every collection that we bring on, we're looking for ways to find real world tokenization. So whether it's Soul Rockers and looking for ways to tokenize music, or whether it's our OG collection and looking for ways to tokenize employee benefits, or looking at ways to tokenize, rental properties. It doesn't really matter what the thing is. We're looking for ways to use the IP and use the pieces in ways that actually make sense in the business world. And these are things that, most projects just don't even consider.
Yeah. So I was actually asking about the opt-in forms. You haven't really talked about that, but exactly that's what it is about, like bringing new people in who have these intentions coming into the crypto space. We are searching for for like dedicated collectors. We are also like we are so proud of the community we've built so far, and yeah, creating these lists, and especially compared with combined with the ad campaigns we are planning to run, and like bringing in more people from the artist incubator, artists, like their communities, is a big focus in the near future as well. So yeah, we are trying to do that, to get like a better relationship with the people, like to stay in touch with them, to give them like the latest information we have, like regarding the project. And we feel like especially in the space, I think you mentioned it as well. Marketing wise, we are doing things no other projects has like ever done before. um, if you check our DMs, for example, I mean, we still every day, when I look into our DMs, I see people like asking for like, hey, can I promote your project? Hey, $50, and I can like even like give you a free preview or trial of what I can do. And when you do that, they basically give you some bot comments and likes and everything, and then they want to be hired. And we've seen that all around, like for over a year now. People, I personally, I know that the old Art of Mob account that we had access to, I saw that this account got these week requests as well, like tons of them. So I feel like, are there actually any projects out there who actually make use of these kind of people? But I guess there are, because otherwise they probably wouldn't spend all day long on Twitter writing to NFT projects. But as I said, we have a different idea of how to market a project, and what people to um, yeah to bring in to us, because obviously, if you just go on the hype train, and if you just go ahead and tell influencers to shill your project, you're definitely bringing in the wrong people. And we feel like it's a challenge. Like I'm not sure if it works out the way we wanted, but it's definitely worth a try. And the good people are out there, and we'll try to make sure to bring them into the Goodfellas, right?
Yeah, for sure. And sorry about that. I totally didn't answer your question around the marketing piece. I got sucked into a tangent. But yeah, there was some noise on your end, and I was trying to maintain my train of thought. I guess I fell off the train. But yeah, so the marketing piece that you mentioned, I'll just talk about real quickly, and then we'll get out of here. I know we're getting close to time. But rather than having people or incentivizing people to shill your bullshit, for whitelist spots or whatever the case may be, it's much better off. I think you're much better off to go into the marketplace and find ways to attract the person that you really want in your community. And the best way to do that is with direct response marketing. So, my background is in direct response marketing since like 2003, whether it was my web company or whether it's a coaching business or the gym business or whatever businesses we've been a part of. The whole idea is to attract the right person to that entity, and then that way everybody wins. Like, you win as a seller, they win as a buyer. The community grows, and like-minded individuals continue to enjoy that particular space, whatever it happens to be. And so, I think the way forward is, rather than paying for influencers to give you just a random collection of morons who don't really care about your project, I think the best thing to do is to run ads to basically find the people who are most interested and who vibe with your message, and then bring them back through a direct response funnel and give them the opportunity to mint. And I'm not going to explain exactly how that looks, because I don't want to give away the secrets, but basically it's going to involve list building. So if you're familiar with the marketing world at all, your power in any business comes from the list that you own and control. So, you can build a business on X, look at somebody like Alex Finn, who was quote unquote NFT God for a while and then changed his profile to his real name. And he's making money on X because he built a list of followers, right? And the truth is, though, if X decides that they want to demonetize that platform, then they can just do that tomorrow and his entire business goes away. But if he owns and controls the lists in the form of, emails or, texts, phone numbers, or whatever the case may be, then he can rebuild his business on any other platform, his own website, doesn't really matter. So ultimately, as a business, you want to own and control your message to attract a list that you can own and control, a list of buyers, a community members, people who vibe with what you are putting forward. And that's really where Goodfellas is going to be putting its energy going forward. And this hasn't been done to my knowledge inside the NFT marketplace. So we'll see if it fails, if it succeeds, if it's a moderately success. I don't know. We don't know. But what we do know is that the old ways don't work. So it doesn't make sense to use them. So for Alex and myself, the best, way forward is looking for new ways to attract the right person. And that's really what the focus is going to be as we build out these arms of business that I mentioned in my previous little soapbox speech.
Yeah, this is it. And I actually wanted to add something, but I forgot it. Too bad. But this is basically it. So if you guys will find the opt-in page that we are going to provide in the next week or so, definitely make sure to type in your email address. Other than that, we haven't really decided on a mint date yet for the next Artist Incubator drop or the next batch mint. But we just focus on marketing for now, and anything happening will be announced in the Discord. So keep an eye on that, and I think we're good for now, right?
Yeah, man, that's all I got for you. I think that's quite a bit that we've covered. So yeah, let's get out of here, get on with the day. I'm going to jump in Discord just real quick and say hello and then get on with it, man.
All right, perfect. So to everyone listening, hope to see you guys on Spaces on Friday. Thank you for being here again, and looking forward to next time. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.